If you have questions about that or looking for a slice of inspiration there's plenty of it in that corner slide. We also have the Meet a Professional schedule. So you can just run down here everything from musical artists, our flight test engineers, technical directors, test pilots, a whole breadth and depth of backgrounds of really accomplished individuals who really contribute to the mission we do every day. For students to come out and engage with them and ask how they got there, what inspired them, things like that. I'm sure kids always have the best questions, so I don't want to plant any, but I'm sure if they come out and engage with them, it will be really worth their time to talk to these folks and understand what it takes to get where they are and how what they do contributes overall to what we do to make those aircraft that they're going to hear and feel flying around outside to make that happen. Slide. And that is throughout the day all the way up until 1400. Slide. And it goes through all the days. So there's a different lineup, so depending on when you want to go there too, we'll go through these in case somebody needs to rewind and wants to catch a specific specialty or a time, or you're going to come out at another day. Slide. All right, STEM booths. So this is quite the list here, right, of all the booths. And you can see the different organizations from our EOD, explosive ordnance disposal folks, to our mobile fabrication shop, making things right there. So when we talk about trying to adapt and keep things functioning, mobile fabrication, be able to put things together, and I'm always impressed with our fabrication shops and what they can do. You know, maybe it's an out-of-date part or something like that, but looking at things like that and being able to put things together and come up with unique solutions. All right, so I have a question coming in now. I'll answer that while that sits up there. Can contractor CAC holders, CAC card holders use the Southgate? Yes, Southgate is pretty much going to operate normal. If you could normally drive through the Southgate on a Monday through Friday, you'll be able to do that. And same with attending on Friday. So if you are an ID card holder and you would normally have access to the installation, you can certainly come out on Friday as well. And we would encourage that as far as our capacity considerations are concerned, and not having to worry about the crowds so much too. It'll take the burden off Saturday and Sunday. Escorting on base. So escort is trusted traveler. So that's if you couldn't normally escort them through trusted traveler, you will not be able to do that for that. So that's going to be your DoD ID card holders and their family members, and it's only those in their car. So that's who you could bring or possibly escort. If you couldn't do that normally, there's no exceptions for the air show week or weekend. All right, slide. More of the booths here. You can see some of those industry leaders out there also supporting it. Another key component for our Force Support Squadron is one large corner of that is also going to have a kids zone. So if you're looking for entertainment, for a $5 entry fee is $2. There's some interactive rides, displays, things like that in there too that people can get to for entertaining some of those younger kids if they need a break from the STEM Expo or whatever as well too. But you can see some of our engine displays, things like that. Stratolaunch bringing out their hypersonic Talon A display as well too, which is kind of a big deal technologically for advancements. And they're currently out there, I think, in the news for pairing up with Global Hawk for stuff. So really kind of leading the way and putting all that on display at a level that is meant to be accessible for your school age individuals for figuring out, you know, what they want to do, where they want to go, and how they can accomplish the things like that. Slide. This is Hangar 1600. And this is pared down. You can hardly see some of those numbers there, but make no mistake about it that is a massive space. That B-52 there off in the left is significant, whereas several football fields wide. So that is the amount of space that is dedicated to STEM, which will also just be a good reprieve, you know, if it's sunny or hot, getting out of the heat and stuff inside. Highly recommend putting some time in there. And you can see all the professionals that are putting their work on display. And then low right too, we also have the robotics field down there. I know my kids are a huge fan of that. When I said that, it kept them awake a little extra that night. So I'm a huge fan of that as well too, and I think that'll be a big hit. The question coming in now is, will the rehearsal of the show on Friday include all performers and sonic booms? Yes, the intent is that the rehearsals show on Friday includes everything. Rehearsals somewhat of a misnomer. It is kind of a practice run with a lesser crowd size for us. However, the intent is that it has everything, unless there's some performer or some constraint where they can't get there on Friday. All planning and efforts went into getting everybody there on Friday so that you get the full experience, so that if you come out there, you are not missing anything that could occur on Saturday and Sunday. Of course, things come up. If somebody gets delayed at all, the first day that might take a loss would be Friday in that regard. But the objective is to have Friday look, smell, and feel just like Saturday and Sunday. So. Other question, if I wanted to take the FAM to Friday events, so I could instead volunteer on Saturday. Oh, details on experience differences between the 2 days. So we just kind of talked about that, really. There really isn't much unless a performer had some constraint. When we reach out and start scheduling with them, the expectation is that they will be there all 3 days. So if you can get your family to Friday and volunteer Saturday and Sunday, we would fully appreciate that. And Saturday and Sunday are big days, so to get people out there for that. If you're military and you can access the .mil network, we have our Power app out there. To sign up through that is one good way. Another way too, possibly through avairshow.com, has a lot of great information. And if you signed up and identified yourself with a member of the 412 test swing on there too, that would help us identify you. We are a little late for some of those things, so if you really wanted to guarantee it, if you advertise that you want to volunteer, if you work in an organization through here through your unit leadership, and run that up that you're available for that, I'm sure they will get your name to us. We've had a lot of discussions about that and providing those folks to us, so everyone would be interested and love to have you out there and helping in that volunteer capacity. So if you can attend the show on Friday and volunteer the rest of the weekend, you get a big thanks from me, because that's going to be a huge lift, and our volunteers are what's going to make this happen. Will the STEM Expo be on Friday be open to base residents? Example, homeschool kids not coming. Oh yeah, that's it's the whole show is open to base residents. So possible trade-off there, just managing some expectations, is you do have all those schools coming in with their focus on STEM. So Friday, there will be a lot of other students there, but completely open on Friday if you want to bring your students, kids, whatever the case may be, into that STEM Expo. It's for them. It is a huge space. They should be able to get some quality time in there. And if you want to come out Saturday and Sunday, we talked about how the show is the same throughout the weekend. The STEM Expo will also be the same throughout the weekend. Slide. Kid Zone, we already talked about that. $5 for admission and some of those activities there, and that's going to be in the corner of Hangar 1600, just outside the STEM Expo stuff. So if you just want an extra entertainment for $5, or your kids need a break from some of the other events, that'll be a good place to go there. Slide. All right, the current lineup, everything's always subject to change, right? And in fact, we typically don't even publish much of the schedule, because there's flexibility. If there's weather the day of and we thought one act is more in demand than another, we could move those up. So a ton of flexibility. We also don't have the capacity necessarily for people to come out and target, hey, I'm just going to come out for a half hour and catch this. You're really going to be committing. People will need to come out early to do that. But we will see the Thunderbirds are going to be out there, the Air Force Academy Wings of Blue, and you can see a lot of the lineup of just aircraft we currently have here, and partnering closely with our NASA neighbors, a bunch of aircraft from there. Sophia is a big one that I don't know many other air shows that have ever had Sophia there. More or less the ability as a static display to interact with that as a flying telescope and really tie into our whole STEM and breaking tomorrow's barriers today theme with that. The sonic booms, if you live on base, I probably don't need to tell you what that feels like, but we are coordinating to make sure we get the most out of those sonic booms and that they are directed to the crowd area and everything like that. So depending on what you may have thought you felt around here, I can assure you this may be a little more pronounced. So I think that'll be a good selling point too for folks to bring home that accomplishment of Bell X-1 and supersonic flight, and the ability to feel that, since most places you cannot go supersonic and execute air operations like that. Slide. All right, this is a very rough layout of the diagram, about a half-mile long of all our displays. So once up in the far right, you see hangar 1600. Once you exit that whole half-mile stretch down there with food and beverages along the way, bathrooms, trash cans, all your fundamental needs, and then all the other aircraft that we're incorporating throughout there. Slide. Attendance, we already kind of alluded to it a little bit. We're going to open up our gates for 3 hours and get as many people here as we can and accommodate them and transport to the event. But just based on the limited flow there is a potential that we may not be able to exceed 50,000 just on this floor. So if people come out and they drive safe and they drive properly, we'll get actually a lot more people through there. But if we have any issues with driving or anything like that, it's only going to impact that number and reduce it. Slide. This is kind of your big list of prohibited items. Questions I usually get on some of the larger bag sizes with that. They got the 17.5 by 13 inches in width for the bag. So if you think it's oversized and you wouldn't try carrying it on an aircraft, probably start considering that, maybe looking at that size if it would get through there. And then you got all your other prohibiteds. Weapons and firearms, I will emphasize, we are not recognizing any concealed carry permits or if you are law enforcement or law enforcement related, if you don't have a current agreement and haven't coordinated to support the air show, you will not be allowed to bring firearms on in that capacity. We have more than enough security and folks here for those purposes, so we don't need any additional. Question is, how are we vetting everyone coming to base? Yeah, so a lot goes into that in the security realm too. There's a lot of extra support from community law enforcement. They have very specific paths to where they can go, and there has been a lot of time and efforts put in by our security teams to assess where they need to be to help out with that. So how people aren't wandering over to base housing, we have a lot of people monitoring all the intersections, and they are backed up by our security forces personnel as well to ensure that nobody gets near base housing. And anyone who crosses traffic, we'll get to the picture of that later at the Lancaster Boulevard and Rosamond Boulevard intersection. Nobody's going to just be let across there without somebody vetting them either through the south gate or other means. So the traffic has a very, very controlled path to their parking and back from that area with sufficient people to monitor that, to identify if anyone did even attempt to do anything outside of that. Slide. So big picture, Saturday and Sunday, we talked about that traffic. You know, we're really maximizing that flow in here. And we expect with all the interest in the air show and all the people from the community coming out to see lines well before that 8:30 gate opening, and expecting impacts as early as 7 a.m. To trying to get into the north and west gates. So anything before that should be okay, but that is also kind of the best guess based on current interest counts. So you can expect to not be able to use the north and west gates during those air shows, that the south gate is an option and we have a crossing point for that. Aviation handheld scanners allowed, listen capable only, can't transmit on it. I don't know anything that would prohibit that. I do know if there was anything that was possibly impacting communications with the aircraft or anything else, that would obviously degrade the air show and put us in a bad place. So if there was a transmit capability, I would highly discourage it. But if it's passive non-interference basis, that's probably acceptable. That's for the question about aviation handheld scanners being allowed. Slide. Parking. So we put facilities available. This is a good one for base residents as far as knowing what you have relative to normal. DFAC is going to continue to run. We still have all those base personnel to take care of, so no changes there. The FSS having to support all the other events with the air show, the golf, bowling, and the club are going to be closed. AFES, however, has extended their hours to help support some of those folks here and take care of them later, especially with those traffic impacts when you consider what people may or may not be able to get to. So you can see those hours down there. All right. Question here was, how about the MiG-29 flying? We had a great offer from a previous ops group commander to come out and fly the MiG-29. And we made the announcement, and then like I said, we talked about, hey, maintenance and all these other things. They had some maintenance requirements and supply chain issues that took them out of multiple shows, not just ours, for the near future. So they're still working through those. There was a lot of folks on our team who are also very excited about that, and we'd love to have it. And I'm sure we'll document in our continuity, and in future years probably be the ones to reach out and ask about that availability. But it will not be able to be a part of this year's show. Slide. Parking. So big takeaway from this is a lot of effort went into counting all these spots, trying to assess where people can be and how we're going to fit to make the air show support work and also accommodate the base residents. So slide. So we have some pictures to go with that. So this is Friday specifically. If you'll notice, we talked about all those students coming in their buses. They got to go somewhere. So dominating this picture is the yellow parking area that is going to be for the STEM students, and then also some of those booth volunteers and individuals doing that. For those looking to come out to the air show, you can see because of that footprint of those buses, the green on the far left side is kind of where you start to pick up that general public parking and where you could expect to park if you were going to attend the show. And the star next to Hangar 1600 is going to be the primary entry control point for folks coming out then. So you're going to have to park a little bit outside of most of this and then walk down and enter through that point. Question here. We will be sending out a copy. Yes. Just so if you're aware too, or you need to follow up this, there is going to be an email following this broadcast with all this information as well too, if you need to review it or look at it later. Slide. All right, so Friday, this is kind of expanding out. I look at it as if you're north of Yeager and west of Wolf Ave, you really get a lot more options as far as the parking for the DoD ID card holders are coming out that day. So these areas, if you're looking at your odds of where you can find a place, this has an abundance of areas for the general public and puts you outside the footprint of everyone else supporting the STEM Expo and things that day. All right, another question here. Will the sonic boom be in the high altitude corridor or show center? Well, it's definitely going to be in the high altitude corridor. That is what is approved for a supersonic flight. And even then at 30,000 feet and about 5 miles overhead, it will still be sufficient, I think, for appreciation. If it was show center and those closest, there's a lot of approvals we don't have for that, and that would probably be a high risk to a lot of infrastructure and other activities around here. So it will be in the supersonic corridor. All right, back to the parking. Slide. Down south towards towards the western side of things, there's really no good options for general public parking down there. That's going to be primarily our performers and maintenance footprint as they have to generate aircraft down on that section. Slide. All right, Friday out here, you can kind of see large security forces footprint around their compound too, so that's not going to necessarily be the most amenable to public parking either. Slide. All right, this is the biggest high-level picture we could really give you about traffic flow. So green, so it's good for the general public there. However, you can see that's going to be a lot of traffic there. And the blue line, almost straight down the middle through Lancaster Boulevard, straight to the south gate is where base residents can expect to cross, both if they're going north or south there. You can expect some delays there. There are going to be traffic monitors there engaging with you, and they have the authority to stop traffic and allow you to cross. They'll probably be working to communicate with you about priorities too. Official business, folks in uniform will probably get identified in a little more expedited priority across there. But if you're just running errands out to Lancaster, Palmdale, or anywhere else in the area, you might expect some longer delays there. Question coming in is, are CAC holders required to park in normal air show parking on Saturday, Sunday? So we have some maps for some of that. If you come in through the north and west gates with the general traffic, we don't have the capability really to sort that out along the way. So if you came in through with the general public at the west or north gate, you would end up out on the lake bed and be stuck in that flow, for lack of a better term. If you came in through the south gate, you would be kept away from the normal traffic flow, and you would be kind of responsible for your own parking in those areas we just covered and deconflicting with that. Another good question, are chairs allowed? Not just allowed, but encouraged. Yeah, we don't have a significant amount of seating. It is usually a large walking event. So if you want to bring a chair out to be more comfortable and take care of yourself, highly encourage it, along with things like, ear protection, if you need that, sunscreen. Those are kind of some of the more typical problems we run into, heat injuries at air shows and things like that. Slide. All right, so if you were leaving base housing and you wanted to attend the show on Saturday and Sunday, this is a good, kind of speaks to the question we just had a couple minutes ago. If you crossed over Rosamond Boulevard at Lancaster, you would be kind of on the other side of that event area. And if you turn down Wolf Avenue, you can see kind of that navigation to get to what would be ID card holder and vetted individuals parking, and put you kind of in those lots and what you'd expect there. And you want to make that turn prior to Popson Avenue to kind of get up there into those areas. If you keep going, you'll probably just end up losing a little bit of time navigating around the other traffic that's for the volunteers, performers, DVs, media, and a lot of the support footprint that we have for the air show. Slide. All right, so here's Saturday, Sunday. So this was kind of asked too about where you could go, and you kind of saw the previous map directed you along that way to get to those green areas at the left. And that's because the pink areas, you can see the amount of volunteers we have to kind of support that in the pink color there. But the green off to the left are going to be good areas for base populace and DoD card holders attending Saturday and Sunday for that region. Slide. And then once again, down towards this part of the ramp and area, there's not many options for anybody. Slide. All right, improvements. If you've been around since 2009 or remember that or attended or tried to attend then, big things we have, it's a 2-day show too. So we are spreading the event over 2 days. So that's going to significantly increase the capacity there. A lot of great engagement with local law enforcement, California Highway Patrol, managing intersections in Rosamond to facilitate efficient transit through there, not just getting into the show, but also departing the show, opening up some additional lanes to get more traffic through there as well too, and keep up with the flow that's going to be enabled because of CHP managing Rosamond. We're increased our paths and routing to the lake bed a little bit, so that should get people there and prevent some backups. And then we're engaged with those law enforcement agencies to make traffic flow departing Highway 14 the priority. And we have a lot of engagement capabilities. So if you can follow our social media, if you'll download the app for the air show, all great ways to stay in touch with us and get those updates, because we are going to try to reach out and communicate. So one big thing since 2009 is our ability to engage and inform folks. So if you're following us on our social media accounts, utilizing our app, I highly recommend the app and enabling notifications, because we aren't going to push a lot out there other than what's probably time sensitive or what people need to know. So if you're utilizing that, you will get some good up-to-date information that will make your experience significantly better. And with that routing and everything, we are like to emphasize that all that effort that went into planning where folks can park, they're going to have parking passes displayed so that we know that they are allowed to park in those areas. So please use designated parking areas and respect the areas that are going to need parking passes for those. Slide. All right, so we've been getting a lot of good questions flowing in. avairshow.com once again for a lot of great information, and that has the lineup. And for those of you targeting Friday, Friday's going to look, the goal is that Friday looks pretty much like Saturday and Sunday. So those of you looking to come out or pick which day, Friday should be just as good as any other day. All right, so we're not seeing any additional questions. I'll give it a moment for those. Otherwise, I'm just really excited. We got a lot of things flowing into the base right now that are going to help us set up this show and host everybody that's going to come out here and take their time to enjoy it. So me and my entire air show team are very excited and looking forward to this, to inspiring some individuals to see what they go on and do after they attend this air show. So thank you everybody who plans to come out, and thank you for tuning into this, and I hope to see you all out there. Now, one last question here. So family on base housing on Saturday, do they need to get passes a day before to park at my house? So I will say I do not live on base. I do not know what the pass system looks like to stay on base, so I will have to ask about that question. And getting a visitor's pass at the south gate, the amount of visitor passes, highly unadvised. We've basically prioritized getting people through who are a vendor performer, so there will not be any passes handed out at the south gate. If you showed up there as though you were general public, you could expect to get turned around. How many flyby performers? I do not remember, because we have our aerial acts, we have the flyby performers, and then some little differences from day to day, like Sophia's schedule. That aircraft actually has to transit a couple times, so depending on that, it may fly by in the morning, then land and be incorporated as a static. So adapting to the schedule of that aircraft is going to impact how many of those flyby performers. You've got the pretty good list and rundown here, and it's not just flybys. You got kind of your specialty acts that are going to put on an actual aerial demonstration, and then you kind of have our other Air Force assets. And another nuance to all that is that we have approval in the beginning of the show. You're going to see kind of an aerial demonstration of actual kind of combat capabilities and a very coordinated display by a lot of those aircraft as well too. So they won't just be flying by, but they'll be putting on a small demonstration of what their capabilities are and how they're actually used in more of a combat setting. What is the best way to sponsor off-base family onto base, specifically from Northgate? I would recommend Trusted Traveler. If you have the ability to be in the vehicle with them and utilize that, would probably be the best solution, where you're escorting them and the least amount of effort as far as paper goes, probably a little bit of your time to get to them. But if you can coordinate that and you can be in the vehicle with them and escort them like that, I would highly recommend that. Let's see, stand by for more questions. Well, we are definitely excited to host everybody and bring it back after 13 years. It's been a long time, so just being able to open it up and put on this demonstration in the remote location that is Edwards. You know, when I think about air shows and people think about, oh, if you hang out outside the gates somewhere, you're going to see it. Just our structure and everything, that people have to wait for us to open it up for this open house air show and STEM Expo to be able to get access to this. Really excited to share that with the public and the professionalism that is Edwards in the center of the Aerospace Testing Universe. So thank you in advance to everyone who's going to come out, and thank you to all the volunteers who've signed up to support us. Can't wait to have you all out there and put on a wonderful show. Thank you.